Good afternoon and welcome back to Football League World TV. We have the second midweek instalment of our score predictions show, looking ahead to Wednesday night's fixtures in the Championship. Another 6 games over the course of tonight that we're going to be delivering our predictions across the next 15 to 20 minutes. I'm your host, Alfie Burns, and I'm delighted to be joined by my two colleagues, Chris Gallagher and Ben Wignall. Ben, I'll come to you first. A happy Preston North End fan today?
Yeah, reasonably pleased last night going into Blackpool game on Saturday. It's very important to get a win, and we're up to 8 before tonight's fixtures go ahead, so that's good. But on a more negative note, I think I only got one prediction right last night out of 6. I think I predicted Swansea to win against Reading, and that's all I got. I had some real shockers. I had West Brom to beat Bristol City, I had Stoke to beat Rotherham, so not good in that sense, but hopefully I'll get some right to restore a bit of credibility.
And Chris, a slightly disappointed Wolverhampton Wanderers fan today, but some news regarding Super Mick Beale.
Yeah, I think it's a risk from Wolves' perspective, but it's obviously not ideal timing for QPR either. They're not going to be too pleased. I don't think that we're trying to get the manager on the day of a game, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we're going to be predicting all 6 games from the Championship tonight. We're streaming across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter as usual. And if you're joining us, please do get your predictions in the comments. We'll look to get them up on the show. Start at St Andrews, then 15th placed Birmingham City hosting 2nd placed Burnley. Birmingham with 3 wins in their last 6, including back-to-back victories in their last 2 fixtures. Burnley have only lost once this season and have a chance to move back to the top of the table above Blackburn Rovers this evening. Ben, what are your thoughts on this game and your prediction?
I think it could be an interesting one because Burnley obviously did routed Swansea in the last game, but I was talking to a few people at P&E game after the game and on Saturday, and we agreed that obviously Swansea were going to come out and attack Burnley, and like other teams where I think Burnley have struggled against teams who've sat behind the ball, and we know what their passing style's like. They have a lot of possession, and sometimes you can struggle to put teams away, but they had obviously no trouble with that against Swansea. I think the Birmingham game will be a bit different. I think John Eustace will know the threats that Burnley possess, and he'll want to kind of sort that pressure up like other teams have done. Burnley, I think before the Swansea game, they only scored more than 1 goal in 2 of the last 7 games, so that was an issue before that, and I can see him Birmingham being tough to break down. Dion Sanderson, for my mind, is one of the top defenders in the division. I think he'll be a good foil for Jay Rodriguez this evening. But I think on the attack as well, Birmingham are pretty solid. They've got a decent midfield. Chong, Hannibal and Bielik's a good midfield. So I think these two could potentially cancel each other out. And I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here.
What about you, Chris? What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I agree with Ben in terms of the style. I think Blues will probably treat it as an away game in the sense they'll concede possession. Burnley will have all the ball. I'd say they'll dominate in terms of the possession, but Birmingham are quite dangerous on the counter-attack with the set pieces. So it's a tough one. I'd expect a really close game. It's probably going to be low scoring because I do think Birmingham are a good side in terms of not having possession. They know where to be. It's something that kind of over the years they've been pretty well drilled in terms of that defensive unit, the structure. So yeah, I think it'll be tight, it'll be cagey, it'll be probably low on chances with Burnley dominating. I think they might just nick it 1-0 Burnley.
Next game we're going to look at is Blackpool's clash with Hull City. 2 sides sitting in the bottom third of the division. Blackpool 19th and Hull 21st. Plenty of respectable results for Blackpool recently. Most recently was their 3-3 draw at Bramall Lane on Saturday, but suspensions building up for Michael Appleton tonight. Shane Lavery, one player that is, of course, not going to be available for the next 3 games. Hull have been free-falling for a while now and hovering outside the relegation zone. Chris, your thoughts and prediction for this game?
Well, I'll probably say it won't be as dramatic as the last Blackpool game. That's the start of the safe one. But yeah, it's a tough one. Hull obviously had a great start to the season, or a good start to the season. Obviously changed the manager, but they just don't look settled, do they? The managerial situation hasn't helped. The team isn't really they've not got an identity of playing, which is natural when you don't have a manager. But there is quality there, as you've just said with Blackpool. They are picking up good results, and I know the manner of the draw at Sheffield United will have hurt the way they let in the last minute or a very late equaliser, and that's going to hurt. But at the end of the day, it's a point at Bramall Lane, which is very good. So yeah, they are getting results, and I'd expect another. I think they'll perform well, but I don't know whether they have the quality to get the win. I'll probably sit on the fence with this one and go for a 1-1 draw.
What are your thoughts then, Ben? Blackpool heading to Preston, or Preston heading to Blackpool at the weekend, but what are your thoughts on the game that comes before that?
Yeah, I know. Even though Hull have been struggling recently, I thought the second half lads would have maybe brought a kind of new manager bounce, but it doesn't seem to have happened. But I think they might be catching Blackpool at a decent time. Obviously, Ekpiteta, Thompson, and Lavery are all out suspended tonight. And I think Ekpiteta is going to be a real big miss. I think he's kind of been the ever present for the last kind of season and a half, and he's kind of adapted to Championship football very well. So I think he'll be a big miss. And when Hull have got a player like Estupiñán up front, he's obviously not scored a lot of goals in recent weeks, but we know what he can do when he gets a chance in and around the 6-yard box. So I think it's a tough one, but I think Hull could get the victory, and not biased in any sense whatsoever. But I think Blackpool might just feel a bit nervous with a big team coming to Bloomfield Road on Saturday. I think this might start to feel the pressure a bit, and especially with some key players missing.
Love that, getting the digs in nice and early. Next up, Coventry, who sit 24th in the table against Sheffield United, who occupy 3rd. Coventry are becoming the new Preston North End in the division, involved in some real low-scoring games recently. And Sheffield United are without a winning 4 in the Championship, and Wes Foderingham is suspended for the next 3 games. Ben, thoughts on this one, Coventry versus Sheffield United?
Yeah, I didn't make a note in my little notes that Coventry's games haven't been very exciting recently. Real lack of goals, but I guess that's to be expected when Callum O'Hare's still not back. They've kind of struggled in front of goal. I think Gyökeres has struggled as well for those chances with O'Hare not in the side. I do think they'll lose 2-1 tonight against Sheffield United, even though Sheffield United themselves haven't been in great form. They've not won in 4 games, and I think the Anel Ahmedhodzic not being in the starting 11 or not in the squad at all because of injury the last few games has kind of been a hindrance, and they've been looking a lot less solid at the back with him not in the team. But I imagine he'll come back in for tonight's game. He was on the pitch on Saturday against Blackpool. Obviously, we know Sheffield United can score goals. Illuminati up front, he's looking exciting this season, but I think he will just have a little bit too much for Coventry this season. So I'll go for a 2-1 Sheffield United win, which will be a very exciting game for Coventry fans to watch, because they've not had many goals to watch in the last few weeks.
How about you, Chris? What's your prediction for this one? You back in the Blades to get back to winning ways?
Yeah, I think, like Ben, I expect a narrow win. I'd probably go for 1-0. But yeah, for the reasons he's outlined there, I'm not going to pronounce the name, I'll get it wrong, but the defender coming back in, he's obviously going to make a huge difference. I think the Foderingham suspensions are a worry. It would be a worry, but you've got Adam Dave, who's a pretty reliable keeper, isn't he? Has been over the years. So it's not going to be, Heckingbottom's not going to be too worried about that. And then you look at the squad, there is a lot of quality even with these injuries. So I think Coventry, again, as we said, O'Hare's the big one been missing. That he's the spark that they need in these bigger games to make the difference, and that they'll be delighted when he does come back, but it's not yet. And I think that their position is misleading because of the games in hand, because of the played so many away games and not at home. So I do expect them to climb up the table over the next after the World Cup. I think by January they'll be up to where they feel they should be in mid-table, but for now it's still a bit of a struggle for them. So yeah, I think 1-0 to Sheffield United, and it'll get them back on track ahead of. I think they've got some really big games coming up over the next 3 ahead before the World Cup. So it is crucial that they end this mini slump. It's obviously not too concerning, but he'll be desperate to get back on track with a win.
Queen's Park, Rangers versus Cardiff City Next up, QPR sitting 6th in the table, Cardiff 18th, heading into tonight's games. QPR really well positioned, actually, but there is some real intense speculation surrounding the future of Mick Beale, with him potentially heading for Wolves. Cardiff, meanwhile, were beaten last time out against Coventry City. Chris, what are your thoughts on this game, given the speculation around Beale and then your prediction as well?
Yeah, I definitely think it is a real pain for QPR, because there's been talk from the weekend that Wolves were seriously interested in him. So for the formal approach, which seems to have come now, or it's certainly come out that he's going to be the man that Wolves want, it's certainly not ideal a few hours before a game, and I'm pretty sure the QPR board and fans won't be pleased that it couldn't have waited to tomorrow or even happened before. So yeah, obviously the players are professionals. It's not going to completely derail them. They'll still be focused on the game. But yeah, it can't be ideal preparation, and it'll also, you'd imagine, affect the mood around the ground. That there's uncertainty. We wait to see if there are any more developments before kickoff, and even whether Beale's there. It does sound like he will be on the touchline, but we know that these things can change pretty quickly. So yeah, it just adds a distraction that QPR don't need, and I think I'll probably go for a draw because of that. Probably Cardiff are a pretty solid side. Hudson's still trying to land the job himself permanently, and he knows he needs results. I think he's made them harder to beat, I think, and there is some good players there. So I'll go for a 1-1 tonight.
How about you, Ben?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we don't know if Michael Beale's going to be in the dugout tonight. I'd assume if it's moving as quick as it appears that he may not be, and that could be a real distraction for QPR going ahead. And they come up against a Cardiff side who are pretty solid in their own right. I know they did lose to Coventry on Saturday, but I think it was a bit of a disputed goal where Callum Robinson scored and he didn't look like he was actually offside, so they'll be wanting to get a bit of revenge off the back of that. And of course, Chris Willock won't be playing for QPR. He's their main talisman as well. So I think this could be I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. I think Cardiff will be able to keep QPR at bay, but I'm not sure they'll have enough to break down QPR, even though they could be struggling at the back a little bit with Jimmy Dunn out and Leon Balogun potentially sidelined as well.
Wigan Athletic versus Middlesbrough. Next up, Wigan sitting 17th and Middlesbrough 22nd in the table, of course, in the Championship relegation zone. It's 3 defeats in 4 for Wigan heading into this fixture, whilst Middlesbrough haven't been convincing at all since Chris Wilder's sacking. Reports are suggesting that Michael Carrick will be in the stands tonight. Having a look at Middlesbrough ahead of taking over at the Riverside Stadium. Ben, your thoughts and predictions for this game?
Yeah, I think Wigan have lost 3 of the last 4, so I think they're kind of, seeing what the Championship's all about again after a decent start. They've had most of the best form on the road, so I think they'd be disappointed to come away from Sunderland on Saturday with no points. And I know Middlesbrough haven't been playing great recently and they've not been getting the results, but I keep thinking they're going to have to get a win at some point. I know they did a few weeks back under Leo Perkovic, but I do think this could be a perfect time to get that win ahead of Michael Carrick, who seems like he's coming in ahead of the weekend or just after it. They've got the players to be a top end promotion chasing championship side, and I think tonight against a Wigan team who are looking a bit flaky recently, they may have enough to get the job done. But obviously they've not really been showing it recently. But I will go with a 2-0 away win for Borough.
How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think when you look at Middlesbrough's squad, the position they're in is pretty disgraceful, really. They had a busy summer. I know, obviously, Chris Wilder's got to take blame for how things started, but even so, the players need to have a look at themselves, because there's a lot of quality in that group. There's pace, there's creativity, good midfield, there's a solid defence, and they don't have a prolific scorer, but they do have a few different options up top. So yeah, it's baffling to see them in this position. And I think when you look at them player for player against Wigan, it's Middlesbrough are a better side. And I think with Carrick in the stands, if we're going on the reports, I think that can make a difference, and the players will already be looking to impress, and it just gives you maybe that extra 1 or 2% that can make a difference. And I'll I think I'll copy Ben's scores. I'll go for 2-0 to Borough.
Finally, then, we're going to look at Millwall versus Watford, two sides nestled in mid-table heading into tonight's fixtures. Millwall in 14th, Watford in 13th. Back-to-back wins for Millwall heading into this game, whilst Watford have won twice and lost twice. In Slaven Bilic has taken charge, playing very well and beating Norwich City last time out. Chris, thoughts on this game and your prediction, please?
I think it's a tough one for Watford. I know everyone going to the Den's never easy, but it's not like it's backed up when you look at the stats. I think they've got 15 points from 7 games at home, Millwall this season. So they know how to get wins at home. Gary Rowett's built a physically strong side. They're well organised. They're hard to beat, and especially at home. So it's going to be tough for Watford. But it's again, when you look at the squad that Bilic has inherited, it's pretty good, isn't it? There's a lot of quality all over the park, and Ismail Assar's the man who can really make the difference for them. So I wouldn't say it relies entirely on him, but if he does play to his potential and make the difference, then Watford can get results against anyone in this league. So yeah, it's going to be tight. I'd probably lean to just Watford 2-1, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw.
How about you, Ben?
Yeah, I rarely go against Millwall at home because they seemingly don't ever lose at home from whenever I watch them. But I think Watford will possess one of the probably toughest challenges for them at home this season. We all know what they've got up front. Sarr, Esprit, Davis. It's a really exciting attack, but Millwall do normally look solid at the back. And like Chris said, he wouldn't be not disappointed. He wouldn't be surprised at a draw, and I wouldn't be either. I'm going for 1-1. I think Millwall have got some threats in attack as well. Obviously Benny Kafobe on his day is a good player, and Zian Fleming's the new man about town. He's in good form at the minute, and I just think they might end up cancelling each other out. But I think Watford, with Bilic in charge and the players that they do have, I think they will end up at some point going on a run where they win quite a lot of games. Maybe not just now, but I think in the near future they will do.
That concludes our look at tonight's fixtures. Thanks to Chris and Ben for their predictions. We'll see how many of those were correct in the coming hours. I'm sure you'll be keeping an eager eye on results. Both of you coming up later in the week on the channel. I'm sure we'll be looking back on the midweek action, some of the big news that's developing, obviously, around QPR and Middlesbrough at the moment, and looking ahead to another busy weekend of EFL football. So make sure you tune in then. But between now and then, take care, and we'll speak to you soon.